Hey, just a heads up as always. On this podcast, we discuss some heavy topics, including murder and other acts of violence. Listener discretion is advised. It was a Sunday, March 7th of 2020 to be exact, when we were being told to hunker down and sequester ourselves from a new virus taking hold, that Antonio made the urgent decision to bring the people closest to him together for homegoing.
Anita Ann Wiley was born August 3rd, 1958, to Carlene Stafford and O.C. Hill in Detroit, Michigan, marking the beginning of a wonderful childhood as the oldest sibling of an ever-expanding family. At a young age, Anita would join the union of her mother, Carlene, to Leo Wiley Jr. with love.
A service for his mom 33 years in the making. At the United Memorial Gardens Cemetery, the place she'd been all of this time, and now her final resting place. The words for her obituary instinctually poured out of Antonio. All the things he'd practiced over the years in his head. The things he told himself he'd say if he ever had the chance.
Remembered as a social butterfly whom had a way with words, Anita loved and lived life to the fullest, touching the hearts of many in a positive and meaningful way.
Just about everyone Antonio could get in touch with came. Childhood friends and associates who wondered all of these years, whatever happened to Anita? And family, like Frank and Val.
We drove down there and, I can't really explain it, how I felt. It was like a little bit of, is it real? Is that her? I went through all different kind of emotions, you know what I'm saying? But it really was good. It was like closure. And it was like, okay, at last, you know what I'm saying?
The closure Val speaks of is more like the closing of a door on one level of grief, the kind that comes from worry and confusion, and opening up another, the grief that comes from knowing the truth. Unknown Woman 1987 finally had a name, and Antonio had the words to express the source of that deep well of pain inside of him. Uncle Frank officiated the service.
It was very spiritual that she was still speaking all over those years. She was still speaking through him. And that's how I interpreted that. And when they found her, or he found her, she could rest.
Well, Mom, look who I brought. Yeah, all grown up now, huh? Yeah, both of us, huh? Wow.
Yeah. Antonio recently brought me to Anita's grave, nearly 4 years from the date of her homegoing service. The plot of land where her remains are located sits near a highway, and the low hum of the traffic feels both like the comfort of a lull and also, for lack of a better way to say it, deeply inadequate. This area of the cemetery, where drivers whiz by without a thought, it's sacred ground. It's where the dozens of other bodies without names attached to them are also buried. I think about their loved ones, people who have lived and died, never knowing that their loved one is buried here. People who, as I speak these words, are walking through life like Antonio had all of these years, suffering from the weight of not knowing. The only clues that give a hint of their identities are the red tags. A sea of them, it feels like. When the Operation United forensics team dug up the site to collect DNA from the remains, They noted the details of the bodies for data collection. The red tags say things like unknown race, male, 70 plus, female, no lower teeth, hip replacement, female, European characteristics, arthritis on sternum. The identities are extremely vague and yet so detailed. Seeing the age estimations in words like hip replacement and arthritis, it makes me wonder if any of it could possibly hold actual meaning to those who knew them. Those still searching.
Every time I come here, it's almost like the first time, you know. Just something I can probably never really get used to. But, you know, to see her name etched in that granite, you know, it's a beautiful thing. She deserved it.
Anita Wiley, 1958 to 1987. Loving mother, truly missed. Antonio came up with the engraving himself. Anita is one of the first of the unknown to receive a headstone. For our visit, we brought with us flowers, purple ones. Antonio tries to do this every few months.
You know, there was times I came here and people had left flowers and things for her. And somebody left something saying like you have a wonderful son, you know, and that just moved me. I said, wow. And I'm still curious as to who left that.
You know, one year when I was around 15 or 16, I confided in my grandma how much I had been struggling with the death of my uncle, who had died violently some years before. She suggested that I write a letter to him and send it off in the mail. No address, just a letter out into the world. Something I still do for my loved ones who have passed on to this day. It seems to me that talking to the dead is necessary grief work. And writing for me is my way of grieving. It helps to clear the space, to remove the debris, to allow a path forward. Antonio gave me a few minutes on my own with Anita's headstone, and I thought about what I'd say to her. Really say to her if I could. In a very real way, this entire podcast is my grief letter to Anita. I go back to that vision of her at 28. It's springtime, 1987, and I can see that even though she's lost something inside of herself, she's not all the way gone. I know this because of her words. It's how she saw herself. What does that say on the front?
My thoughts, my hopes, my dreams, my love, and my feelings. P.S. I love you. Always. Love, Anita.
Anita kept journals, lots of them. But there's only one that still remains, a document of the last few months of her life. What details inside of it might help us understand her disappearance and murder? And what are the things I still have yet to write as part of my grief letter to her? From TMI Productions and APM Studios, this is She Has a Name, Episode 8, Dear Anita. Anita's writing gives us a lens into her state of mind, and possibly clues on who killed her. The intimacy of her writing, her letters round with wide loops, feminine but not overly cutesy.
I mean, she had excellent penmanship, you know. I remember she would write, and I'd just be in awe. And I would try to copy it, you know, how you try to forge your parents' signature.
Yeah.
You know, but it was just so elegant.
Anita writes about her fears, the humiliation she feels about this tumultuous love affair she's in, her substance abuse problems. And it's not what she says, but how she says it, that I can see in between her words, a determination and a will. It's embedded in her writings about Antonio and the child she was pregnant with.
When I watched her, kind of journal, I knew that it was a space, I guess, around her, like an aura, I guess, and she was really in a zone where she would do that. And that's what you remind me of. When I listen to your broadcast and everything, I can sense that same level of just focus and, it's like time stands still almost. You know what I'm saying? And that's just something I observe because I've seen it before. It's familiar to me.
The day Antonio told me this was also the day we decided to share the contents of the journal in this podcast. It took Antonio a while to come to that decision because when he first showed them to me a few years ago, only he and Val had ever read them. So much of what Anita writes is in contrast to what everyone has told us about her. But Antonio says he's thinking differently now. Maybe what she wrote could jog someone's memory, give a clue to the police, who have yet to make an arrest despite the family's theories. But mostly, he says, the journal is also a gift to me, a chance for me to connect with and understand my sister.
And that's why I, just kind of gave it to you that way, because I'm like, we have our relationship, but that's your sister. So, hey, if anybody could get it, I'm sure it's you.
My name is Anita Brown, and Anita Wiley was my grandmother.
A few months ago, Antonio asked his eldest daughter, Anita, who was named after her grandmother, if she'd read passages from her grandmother's journal for this podcast. Anita jumped at the chance because all of her life she felt deeply connected to her grandmother, even though she knew almost nothing about her. The only thing she knew really is that she reminded people of her. She says, whenever people who knew Anita see her, their eyes look like they've seen a ghost.
I see my dad and me and see my mom, but I always kind of felt like something was missing, if that makes sense. So when I'm talking to my Auntie Val, and she's like, oh my God, like my mannerisms and things like that remind her of my grandmother.
People say the resemblance is so striking, even down to the timbre of their voices. But all Anita ever saw growing up was one blurry picture of her grandmother with an afro, and she just couldn't see herself in it. Until the homegoing service in March of 2020, when she saw the photo of her grandmother in the obituary. Young, vibrant, and nearly exactly the same age.
I remember staring at the picture. It gave me chills a little bit, because even down to the thickness of my hair, my mom has really fine hair. My dad's hair, it's kind of thick, but it's it was a lot of things that I just didn't understand. So it was she had her wrap, and it was just looking like me.
So last winter, Anita braved a snowstorm in Cleveland, where she lives, to drive to a studio where we sat her down to record her reading her grandmother's words for the very first time.
My thoughts, my hopes, my dreams, my love and my feelings. P.S. I love you. Always yours, Anita.
Anita's journal, one of those paper-bound camel notebooks, reads like one big love letter to Leroy Lyons, the man everyone seemed to be afraid of, but Anita saw something in. In the journal, she goes back and forth between calling him Leroy and a nickname several people have told us he went by, 3 Easy. It's another side of Anita. On the page, we can barely make out the legendary leader who stepped in for her siblings and took care of them after her mother died. There's no sign of the boss people told us she was, the young woman with a gift of gab who knew how to navigate the streets, how to stand up to the best and the worst of them. The Anita we meet here is a woman who yearns to be loved to be seen and cared for. And for some reason, it seems she thought she had it in this guy, Leroy. The first page was written in February of 1987.
I know a lot of times I'm not the best person in the world or in your eyesight, but I try hard to be the best person I can be. I make a lot of mistakes that I really don't have to make. All I really have to do is stay real close to you. When I'm thinking with a clear and sound mind, I'm shamed and sorry for a lot of things I have put you through. I'm trying real hard to pull this soul of mine back together again along with my life. I have a hard time working with this problem I have, cocaine. Sometimes it ain't as easy as it seems to stop. Although I think I'm working with the problem rather well, I still have setbacks. I guess one day I'll be through altogether. I wish that day would come. I have no reason for what I do, nor am I the strong person I used to be at one time to say no to things I know won't help me. I thank God and you, and I also thank God for giving me you, to work with me in fighting a battle that's not easily won. March 2nd, 1987. 3 Easy. Thank you, baby, for making me feel important in your life again. You let me know next to who you have at home, which I know is number 1, that I'm next in line, and I can accept that. I love you for the gentleman you are and highly respect you for the man you have always been. You'll get no trouble out of me, for I'm with you all the way, and I'm for you until my dying day. No matter what, I'm always yours and forever. March 3rd, 1987. Today you thought that I was being untrue about my drug use, but I didn't lie about it this time. Yes, sometimes it's hard to fight the feeling of wanting one, but I think I'm handling it rather well, not to take every penny I see or come in touch with and run to the crack house. I'm fighting this curse I have put on myself, and I know it's going to be a long, hard battle, but I'm not going to take you or my son through any more of my bullshit. I can do it, and I will do it, but I need you to believe in me. I know it's hard, but try. I'm worth that. March 13th, 1987. Yesterday being with you all day like that was somewhat fun. A couple of times I got a little jealous, but then that's me. I now realize that I have to do more with my life than just sit around and be up under you. When I'm not under you, I'm lying around the house or offered to something I shouldn't be offered to. It's time for me to go back to work or get offered to something that is working. I have made up my mind because soon I'm going to have to settle down and take care of this child I'm going to have. So I'm going to have to get some money now. March 14th, 1987. Missing you the past 2 days, can't seem to stop thinking about you. Listening to these oldies but goodies, I think a lot about our good, very good, and bad times together. I love you, Leroy, without a doubt. I know through the years I have changed, but believe that you have too. I guess we have for the best or the worst. Who knows? I think about life without you, and again, I grow very unhappy. I have built you up to be my knight through the years. You have been my reason for surviving, and life without you would send my world falling to the ground. It would be the end of something that was meant to be. I hate to think that I can't rise above all my troubles, because I know it's just not true. I also know that it will be harder without the help of you. March 15th, 1987. Today is another day, and already it's filled with disgust. Nothing's going right, so tomorrow I'll be looking for something to get off into. I need a job, something to keep my mind from wandering. I know I haven't forgotten how to hustle. It's just a matter of getting out and doing it again. I can't stand the way I'm living. I laugh to keep from crying, and at night I weep in my sleep at the thought of doing this to myself. The foolishness is over, and I'm tired of tripping and feeling sorry afterward. March 16th, 1987. I'll never live it down. March 17th, 1987. There's no trust for me and you, and no strength to stand up to you and me. And what we fought about yesterday was something that happened for a good reason. To show me that we haven't gotten past the lack of trust or belief yet, and for good reason. but I haven't learned to be by myself again either. To have nerves to say, you're wrong this time, baby, and stand by it, mainly when I'm right, no matter what you do. To me, like cocaine, you are my sign of weakness. You make me laugh when I'm not crying or confused. You give me what I need or want, sometimes. You love me the way no one else can. The way I need to be loved in my mind and soul, but no comfort, no more nothing but fear and worry about what you think and see in me. I know you love me and care about me, but my feelings are stronger. There's someone else that's first in your life, but you're first in mine. My drug problem, too, does not come before you. How can I stop loving you? I haven't in all these years, and maybe never will. Seems like another lesson in life. You taught me well. Hate you, but can't live without you.
The next entry, dated July 2nd, 1987, was Anita's last, written after what looks like to be a date and time for a doctor's appointment. Around 4 months pregnant, she wrote this shortly before she disappeared.
July 2nd, 1987. Thank you for being the wonderful person you are, for loving and caring about my well-being. Thanks for letting me be me. Love you easy. Thank you for being you.
After Anita read her grandmother's journal, we took a moment to talk about it. Woman to woman, we both saw elements of ourselves in Anita's words. In love with the wrong person, wounded, and trying to figure it all out.
I would just, as she said, would laugh to keep from crying type situations. So, everybody on the outside, I always looked like I had it together because I was always happy. I was always laughing and things like that. But spiraling, like, what the heck? So, it's just like trying to make it through, trying to push through, trying to see the best in yourself, but struggling and looking for a validation and through other people. And when you don't get that, it's like you just kind of still feel stuck. Opposed to, I just wish, she had someone to kind of tell her, you don't need no one to tell you that you're beautiful and that you're worth it and you're enough. So, I wish we were friends.
Me too, Anita.
Yeah, I would have told her.
In between her writing about her drug problems and this dysfunctional dependence on this guy are the lyrics to her favorite love songs.
If this world was mine, I would place it at your feet, all that I own. You've been so good to me. Every sky would be blue as long as you're loving me. And when I'm here in your arms, life is so wonderful. Give me pretty loving and keep loving me.
It's like she's searching for a love that is beyond her grasp. A love beyond the romantic. The kind that is unwavering and unconditional.
On the flip side of that, she still was writing about hopes and dreams. And that's
and me, love. I mean,
yeah. I mean, come on now.
No. I know. It's beautiful, the human condition. Yes. And her strength. Because I feel like it takes a lot of strength to write about love when you're going through the depths of despair.
And that shows she believed she was how can I put it? Her story was just beginning. You know,
Yeah.
she didn't see the tragedy. She was planning for the triumph, and love, hope, and her dreams was the way forward. And that's how I know, like, whatever she was going through, she would have overcame that shit, hands down.
Dear Anita, this is your little sister, Tonya. The one you saw playing on my grandma's front lawn. That little girl who still lives inside of me is just so happy to know that you were real. I've got so much to share with you. Antonio, that teenage boy you were wrangling, he's got 5 gorgeous kids now. You're a grandma. And your eldest granddaughter, Anita, she's a mom too, of a girl and a boy, which officially makes you a great-grandmother. You'd be so proud of your sister, Val. She and Frank took Antonio in and became like his parents. She's a mom and a grandma too. And the torch of her love and gratitude for you still shines bright. She just might be one of the most beautiful human beings I've ever met. Now, the sister we share, Teresa, took over our dad's shop after he died in 2016. And since that conversation about you, we've actually been texting each other about our kids and sending pictures. I'm going to make it a point to see her more often when I'm home. Speaking of which, Detroit is so different now. When I go back, there are parts of the city I don't even recognize. Much of your old stomping grounds on the west side, where whole neighborhoods stood, huge parts of it are now just basically grasslands. There's so much more work to do, but I'll tell you, it feels so much better than it was in 1987. The energy of the city is just different. A new generation is making it its own. Beautiful, but also bittersweet, because so many people like you never got a chance to see Detroit's rebirth. I never knew you, but I'm certain I've been mourning the loss of you for most of my life. I know this because now that I know you, I feel like I've also learned more about myself, like I'm closer to being whole. Thank you for sending me your son, Anita. He's one of the great blessings of my life. He brought me to you. And your story is now a part of me. You are a part of me. Rest in power, sis. I love you.
I'm sure she would have wanted it this way, you know. Us together, united, you know. Because in 87, I'm sure this time was hard to see.
Yeah.
This had to be a hard thing to visualize. But, you know, when you talk about hopes and dreams, I mean, this is the stuff it's made of, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
What do they say? Like, your children are the future that you may not see.
Yeah.
And I think about all the lessons you told us that your mother has shared with you. You're the future.
Yeah. Yeah, Khalil Gibran, the prophet, says, your children are not your children. They come through you, but not from you. They dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot imagine. So, you know, although this is sad, you know, a better day has come. I mean, look at the work we're doing.
Yeah.
You know, not only are we shedding light on our life, our family, our loved ones. Look at all these markers. I mean, look at all these unmarked graves, right?
Yeah.
I mean, somebody was found there, somebody there, right? So it does matter, right? It does matter.
Yeah.
You know, it does matter. I even see a tombstone there. Somebody might just got their tombstone over there, you know?
Yeah.
Anita was the first. But in the last 5 years, Operation United has collected 203 DNA samples of unidentified remains in Wayne County, Michigan. So far, they've identified 20 people. If you'd like more information on Operation United, we've got resources on our website at SheHasANamePodcast.org. Now, next time on the show, we are headed back to Detroit for a live show with Outlier Media where we'll delve into all things She Has a Name. And later this season, we'll share some of the tips and unusual details we've uncovered and some of you have shared after listening to this series. We want to know, do you have questions about Anita's case or the making of this show? Record a voice memo and email it to me at Tonya@deartbt.com. That's TONYA@deartbt.com. We may use your question or comment for a future episode. She Has a Name is a TMI and APM Studios production. I'd like to give a special thanks to our team who has spent the last year deep in this story with us. Our executive producer, Antonio Wiley. The person who makes all of this possible. Showrunner Nicole Hill, audio producer and sound designer Marie Mendoza, and research producer Kristen Fraser. Our sound designer and final mastering is by Enrico Benjamin. Our music was composed by Andy Clausen. A special thanks to the entire APM team, our executive producer, Erica Kraus, senior production manager, Nick Ryan, and APM executives in charge, Joanne Griffith and Chandra Kavadi. I'm your host, creator, and executive producer, Tonya Mosley.